Thanks, Charlotte. Good morning, everybody. Jill Walsh, Career Hub Lead. I think I know most of you by now. So thanks for joining us this morning. So this session is to discuss Compass Plus and actually your transfer across to Compass Plus. We're really fortunate this morning that we've got David Copeland, who's head of digital content and products for careers and enterprise companies. So David's going to run through the session this morning, and we're also going to be joined by one of his team as well, Costas, at possibly around about 9:45 when he's finished another session that he's actually running. What I would say to you all this morning is please use the chat. If you've got any questions as David and Costas are running through the session, please ask them. We will open the session at the end for questions and answers again, but please use this the session this morning to really sort of share with us any concerns that you've got or any concerns that obviously, you know, IT, and I know there's a lot of issue potentially around GDPR and the sharing of that data, because we're wanting for you to obviously transfer out of your back office, your SIMS systems or similar ones. So please sort of air any concerns that you've got this morning, or if there's anything that you need clarification on that David runs through as well. From a regional perspective, just to give you a little bit of comfort to start off with, we've got 2/3 of our schools already transferred on to Compass Plus. So we've sort of only got about 40 schools left that haven't currently done that transfer across. And I think the key thing that's maybe come out in the last couple of weeks is the fact that, you know, for those that haven't transferred, you're going to start to miss out on some of the key things that are being sort of put through Compass Plus, such as the future skills questionnaire that I know that a lot of schools are finding really, really useful. So yeah, let's get started, David, and we'll pick up the chat and we'll pick up the questions as we go through.
Great, thank you, Jill. Morning, everybody. Hopefully you can hear us all okay. So thank you for taking the time out this morning. We're going to run through a little bit about Compass Plus for you. Can I just perhaps ask, has anybody not seen or heard much about Compass Plus? Could you perhaps raise your hand, or either physically or use the little hand signal if you don't know a lot about Compass Plus or you're not that familiar with it? I was conscious I don't want to go through too much detail if you are all actually reasonably sort of understand what the product does. So put hand up if you're not sure, then yeah, so it's about half, just under half of you are not sure, so about half of you are not sure. So I'll assume then that it's roughly 50-50 in terms of those of you who've got some idea of what the product does, and some of you maybe don't. So if we just very briefly start from the beginning, then Compass Plus is basically aimed at enabling you to deliver your career, or to help deliver your careers program in school for individual pupil level. By which we mean Compass Plus will allow you to record everything that you do in your programme for each and every pupil. For quite a lot of schools, that's quite a big step change, in that we know a lot of schools historically, and a lot of schools still tell us, they run on running activity on year group levels and large groups, and then in spreadsheets sort of mark out who, you know, what activity has been done by which year groups, and that's the way that a lot of people traditionally record their activity. For those who are looking to get more detail, and obviously there's a step change really across the sector to be able to make sure we can track and plan and monitor and maintain effectively provision for each and every pupil. Compass Plus allows you to do that. So we make no sort of, we're quite candid, if you like, around the piece that what that will entail rather is that you will have to do a little bit more to actually get the that pupil level of data recorded, because of course going from whole year groups and keeping it all at that level through to individual pupil provision takes a little more. But what Compass Plus will do is help you to make that step a lot shallower in that respect. So the system automates a lot of activity, it automates a lot of cross-population of information. So for example, when you create an activity in Compass Plus, if you put the whole of year 10 in to do an activity, it records it against the benchmark that you're trying to work towards. So that helps you keep a clear record of what your progress is for the whole school. And also then for each of those pupils in that year 10 group, let's just say you've got 180 of them perhaps, then each and every one of those pupils has a pupil record in the system, and each one of those is automatically updated with that activity. So you don't have to worry about all of that. So it's that sort of cross connection when you create activities, when you build your plan in your in Compass Plus and include your pupils, it will effectively populate their pupil profiles with a lot of content as well. And as Jill mentioned at the outset, there are newer features that have come through recently, like Future Skills Questionnaire, which allow you to capture the student voice really, particularly at transition points. So again, at that level, you can see the benefits from both a macro perspective in terms of getting student feedback on your current program, their experiences of it, and what do they feel they've learned, or how empowered do they feel they are. So that you can then perhaps adjust your program if you feel perhaps you may see and identify some areas where they don't quite recognise some of the strengths or the values of it. You may want to readdress that. So you can use Future Skills Questionnaire to adjust your program and inform changes in the future. But also on an individual level, you can see an individual pupil's or students' responses, and you can quite readily determine if someone's perhaps disengaged or really not connected with the work you've done and the support you've perhaps given them. So you may want to take more individual action as well. And that's the theme that runs through Compass Plus. It works at a whole school level, it works at an individual pupil level. There's lots of cross connections that the system automatically populates data to try and minimise the impact and requirements of your time and your team's time if you're able to get that. And also the system quite often prompts the question around creating whole school provision. So again, historically, where a careers leader has perhaps been the sole lead and responsibility and delivered everything in the school, clearly that's becoming increasingly sort of not a viable way forward for everybody. So what the system allows you to do is to bring in other stakeholders, other teachers, non-teaching staff, get them involved in Compass Plus, and actually get them to you can encourage them to run some activities for you and record those in Compass Plus, so that you can sort of get a more federated leadership of the delivery of your program in that respect. So that's a sort of quick headline. I'll just share my screen, and we've got the product demo here that we can sort of run through a few key points with you, if that helps. But I suppose the first point that Jill had made was the reference around sort of some questions are potentially around GDPR and things of that nature. So one of the things that often stimulates questions around data and GDPR is the point that Compass Plus connects to your management information system. So we connect to your MIS, and the system connects via a specialist partner of ours called Assembly. And when you go through and you do the upgrade, and Costas will explain a little more of the functional elements of how to do the upgrade after I've done this bit of brief intro around the product. But what Assembly do for us is they're a specialist data connection business, basically. And they work again specifically in the education sector with secondary and primary schools, and even with some colleges as well. And what they do is they enable us to be able to connect to your MIS, because what they do is they have a universal connector, or a universal integrator, I think is the more correct term. And their universal integrator basically connects to every point in your MIS, but it doesn't draw any data. The reason for that is that some other parts of your school, for instance, might want to use Assembly for other digital products. So perhaps you use products that enable you to sort of get pupils to share their homework, such as Share My Homework. Some HR teams may use digital products to manage their staff, sort of all the staff payroll, holidays, sickness, and all that sort of thing. So they may use a digital product to do that. And quite often, those products, or other types of products, are also connected to your MIS via an integrator such as Assembly. So all of these universal integrators basically make connections to every point of your MIS. They don't draw any data at that point. They only draw the data that's authorized by the application or the product. In this instance, with Compass Plus, we ask you to authorise us to draw 22 data points through, which gives us the minimum amount of data to give you the maximum amount of impact to make Compass Plus work for you. That in itself can sometimes be a prompt for people to go, oh, why does Compass Plus want to connect to our HR system or whatever? Well, the reality is Assembly will connect to all parts of UMS, as I said, but no data will be drawn apart from that those 22 data points to make Compass Plus work, which don't include things like staff and HR costs and so forth. So that's just a quick point on the connection and how it works. And Compass Plus updates overnight every night and refreshes every night with your MIS. So as pupils arrive today, when we refresh tonight, you'll see them in all your year groups and things like that tomorrow. If a pupil leaves today, they'll come out of all of the groups, the live groups they're in tonight, and they'll go into an archive for left pupils. They stay there for 3 years. You can still edit them. You can still update any records and details, so it aligns with the Gatsby benchmark requirements. So hopefully everyone can see what we've got here on the screen, which is the dashboard part of Compass Plus. And this is a really useful data summary that allows you to sort of see and do some quick data inquiries into what becomes quite a growing data set as you build your program in Compass Plus and add more information in. So it's quite a quick and easy way to access things. One interesting aspect, and I'll just show you a couple of things in here, but one interesting aspect is on the Your Evaluations data visualization here. This shows us my last completed evaluation. So again, once you're upgraded, you'll see your last completed evaluation. You can use overlays to look back against previous evaluations that you've done, Compass evaluations, and see where you've got to. So you can see the progress you've made. The solid bars are the current latest version, dotted lines are the previous version I've highlighted here as such. And that's helpful from time to time if you're looking at sort of showing progress and distance travelled and so forth. But one of the most compelling things to look at, and the most compelling points of Compass Plus overall fundamentally, is to use the planned activities or completed activities overlay. So what this does is if I click on my planned activities, this takes a quick look. The system looks back at my plan, which we'll come to in a second, and actually says, based on all the activities in my plan, in the planned section of my plan, things I intend to do, with all the pupils that are doing those activities, the system projects that by the end of the academic year, so next July, 31st of July is when we call the end of the academic year for universality perspective. So the end of next July, if I deliver all those planned activities, then I can see here on my benchmark 5, which I've perhaps prioritised with through discussion with my head and SLT. That's one of the priorities that have been set. I'll have clearly put a range of activities in my plan, and if I deliver those planned things, then I can see that my end of year outcome is that I'm going to get to 100% against that benchmark. Now, what that allows me to do is, if I go and make changes to my planned activities today, and let's say this morning, if I take out 2 or 3 planned activities that are referenced to benchmark 5, then I can go back in and just click the planned overlays again, and it may well be that 100% completion, adding this 25% in, may slide backwards because I might come back below a scoring threshold within a Compass evaluation. The system will work that out and show me automatically. So that's really helpful to keep me informed, so that I can actually use the planned functionality, planned activities functionality here to look at any point where I'm going to come out at the end of the year, and actually then how, if I make changes, what the impact in that sense. So that can be quite useful at any point, and we recommend people look to sort of use that the planned activity overlays, and as the year progresses, start using the completed ones. It's too early in the year for me to have any completed activities that will have sort of moved the bars across in that sense. But again, if you were to get through to sort of April next year, perhaps doing your Compass evaluation at Easter next year, you might be able to look at both combination of completed and planned overlays to see what you've already done, what activities young people have already experienced. You've already got those activities banked in the system, so to speak, and then what you're planning to do for the rest of the year. So it enables you to sort of have a clear view on that, which is really useful and just isn't possible really with any other product or any other way of managing your careers programs. That's a pretty unique and valuable way of tracking where you're going to come out at the end of the year. So as you go to do an evaluation, a campus evaluation sort of around now, at Easter and at the end of July, you can, again, certainly between them as well, but certainly look at reviewing where your planned and completed activities are and what the impact is to help guide you in your answers to those evaluations as well. Very briefly, there are some of the visualizations which we can come to further down if needed a little later, but that's the key one to just think about for the moment. If we just briefly touch upon our evaluations, so when you upgrade, all of your Compass evaluations are also ported across for you. They appear here once my Wi-Fi catches up. So here are all my evaluations. I should just say this is a demo version of the product, so all the data is totally spoofed in here. There's no live pupil data, of course, but yours will have all your pupil data in it. So I can basically go into my look at my last completed evaluation. I can review the results as you can now. I can look into the details of the results as you can now. And here, for instance, I can see, well, actually against English, Science and PSHE for benchmark 4, I have nothing completed here. So actually I need to perhaps do a bit more work and put some more activities into my plan so that when I come to answer the Compass evaluation question at the next time round, I can perhaps more confidently say, yes, I've got things fully embedded in all 4 subject areas for the benchmark, not just in that one. So it's quite easy to pick up your evaluations from before and see those. It's very simple to create a new evaluation as well. It's just the same process as before. One sort of minor or subtle difference, but it makes life a little easier, is that when you go through and instead normally you put your pupils into your Compass evaluation, the number of pupils per year. Compass Plus is connected to your MIS, so that's already done for you. So that's nice and straightforward. That's the only part of the Compass evaluation in Compass Plus that you can't change. Excuse me. So Compass Plus puts your pupils in because it knows them from the MIS. But everything else, you have total editorial control still over your Compass evaluation. And as I say, Compass evaluations are all in the evaluation section up here. Briefly, we looked at, we talked about the plan earlier. If we just go into the plan, we automatically, the system defaults to this year, when we last updated it, number of activities we've got in it, number of benchmarks we've covered. There are some other actions like we can download all of the content if we want to into Excel, if we want to do anything else with it. We can bulk upload activities into the plan. We can copy everything to next year if we want to as well. Excuse me.
Just on that point there, we've had a question which might just link into that, man, you're around. Can you actually, when you're talking about bulking up there, so the question is can you add one activity against more than one benchmark now?
You can indeed, and I'll just come on to show you that in one nanosecond or two. That's a really good prompt, thank you. Yeah.
Right.
You can bulk upload activities from a spreadsheet. You can do it. You can also do it with some work we've done with partners for Zello, from Start, from Zello, from Cascade, Start from Explore, and Unifrog as well, and Morrisby. So if you use any of those systems, you can also download activity from there and bulk upload it into Compass Plus. But if we just typically we would go in and open our plan. When you've got some activities in, this is sort of what the plan looks like. It's split into planned activities, as we've sort of mentioned, with those overlays, and completed activities, which we mentioned in those overlays earlier on. And also, if you cancel activity, it doesn't disappear, it gets posted to the cancelled section. So again, if you plan to do a range of things, but they don't happen and they get cancelled, you can always track and see what's gone on and where they are. It just doesn't disappear out of the system. And of course, one of the holistic benefits of the whole system is everything is in one place for all of your users, for yourself and anyone else in school you give access to. Just the point you were mentioning there, Jill, about scoring against multiple benchmarks. So the system allows you to score one benchmark per activity recorded. I pick my words quite carefully there. So what you can do is, as you can see here, I've got a hackathon challenge, as we've called it, for the same group of pupils. We've actually already duplicated it against 3 benchmarks, and this extra duplicate of a duplicate is from yesterday's session. But what you can do basically is you can go in to your activities, you can hit duplicate, and then basically creates another version of the thing straight away. Let's just do that. I'll show you while we're at it. I can take a couple of the others out later. So you get these little confirmation signals when you're doing things in the product in there. And then we've basically duplicated. It's actually appeared above here, as you can see, in there as well. And you can then go back in. You can go into anything that's duplicated. You can view and edit it, and you can toggle through and put a different benchmark into score. So that's how it works within Compass Plus. And very briefly, this is the standard type of form you'll see for all activities for benchmarks 2 to 8, which tends to be the more frequently used area. There's a separate form that you do for benchmark 1 that covers the 17 sub benchmarks, which tends to be obviously whole school, multi-year. You might create it and then update it periodically over a number of years. But here you'll create, no doubt, a range of activities. You just simply put the title in, you pick your benchmark that you want to score against and the relevant sub-benchmark from a drop-down. These are all agreed with Gatsby. And then you can only score the one, as I say, for each time you save the activity. But you may want to put additional ones in to remind yourself that actually it has value against other benchmarks and sub-benchmarks. And then if you do want to, you can duplicate and then say, OK, I'll now pick this one and put it up here, duplicate and save again and say, I'll put this one and put it up here. So you get 3-line entries perhaps for one activity because it's a really well-developed activity. You go and put your name of who's running it, the date, times if you want to, you don't have to, but you really do need to put the date in or it'll not appear in the right place in your lists of activities. And then any pupils. So the system automatically pulls across all of your year groups, your form groups, all of your teaching groups, which some cases are sort of 600 to 800 different teaching groups and extraction groups, anything you've got in your MIS that organises pupils for tuition. And then also we pull across all of your characteristics groups in your MIS. So things like pupil premium, free school meals, English as additional language. They're all pulled across exactly as you have them. So they're coded in the same way. So hopefully you'll be relatively familiar with the way your groups are described, because it'll be the same as you've got them for your curriculum planning and timetabling and such. And you can basically add any group you like then into here. So for instance, I've got E&G for English. I know all my English groups are there. If I wanted to add a form group in to run this activity, I start typing, mine are all called form something, so I can add any group in. And of course, I can add any individual pupils in that I want to as well in that sense. Oops. Let's say you put anyone in that you wish. And the system picks them all up in really easily. And then very handily, you could also, if you want to break a group open and take some pupils out, because if, let's say, the whole of Form 12X isn't going to do this activity, there's a little pen symbol. It looks like a little line in a circle. That's in every group. You see every little lozenge for a group has one of those. And if you click on that, it's a bit like an email group. You expand it, all your pupils appear. I can perhaps say that these pupils aren't going to do this activity. I'll take them out. And if I wanted to, I could even add more pupils back in manually as well. So it's quite simple to do. So that's sort of generally what you can do with pupils. Really easy to sort of put them in and move them about. Very briefly, custom groups then is a really fantastic feature that allows you to look at bringing groups of pupils together with a shared interest or a common need or requirement that's not normally picked up by the way you ordinarily organise your young people. So we've said earlier, year groups, form groups, tutor groups, and tuition groups rather, and characteristics groups, etc., all as in your MIS. But actually, if you've got a group of young people whose grades who are on the cusp of perhaps getting the grades that they've been predicted, and you want to give them more options to do other things, you can create a new custom group and put those individuals in there to make that, to cover it off for them if you wish. Or if you've got a group of young people who are at risk of NEET, you can make a group for them, or any different group at all. If there are people who are interested in a certain subject area or a certain industry or type of job role, you can create a custom group for them. You simply start typing a name. A real group that we have seen created in the East Midlands is for people interested in working outdoors. And you can literally start just typing in the people's names, if you know obviously who those people would be that you want to be in the group. And this is a simple example really, because you can basically put as many or as few people in as you want, who it's relevant to. But the subject, for instance, of working outdoors, this was a group of young people who the careers leader had a handful of young people who were relatively disengaged and sort of low academic performers, but were actually quite interested in just doing some jobs that were outdoors effectively, rather than office or indoor based. So they created a group, and when they've got a very large hedge that runs along one side of the school property, and every year they get a company to come in and manage it for them, trim it and sort it out. So the first activity they did was to use that occasion when that company came in, create the group for working outdoors, put the young people into it. And the first activity they did with them was to actually get them to go and see and understand what that type of work entails and what the opportunities are and the pros and cons of that sort of work. And then they've gone on to do other activities as and when things have come across. So you can basically create a group quite readily. For custom group in that sense. And again, if you've got them already created, they happen to come up at the top of the list here. But if you start typing any of them in that you are interested in, that you want to put in here, I've got a whole lot that I've created around subjects pupils are interested in, clubs and things, societies, things like that you might do over a term, half term, and so forth, and so on. Point just to note is for one example, we were working through with a group of careers leaders. They talked about having year 8 underachieving boys. Be mindful, any title you put in for a custom group may well be visible to the pupil or the parents and guardians. So I wouldn't, for instance, recommend using that type of title. You might want to reframe it to something that's more shareable, should we say. So you can create a custom group and put them in to any of your activities wherever you like. You add any of your careers partners, and you create careers partners basically that was basically all of your sort of local businesses, volunteers, other local providers, people who will help you with your program. You can create them quite simply in careers partners. And then as you start typing, as you saw, then they just appear, and you can even start adding them in fresh from here and put somebody in totally new, and it'll create a record for you in careers partners you can add to later on if you want to. If you want to add any notes, you can do, and then you just save the activity. I won't save this because I made a bit of a mess of it, but if I just come away from it for a moment. We go back to the plan. So that's sort of, as you see, it's very easy to create and duplicate and things like that. And you simply mark something as complete when it's finished. It jumps to completed, and then that powers you back to your sort of planned and completed overlays we looked at the outset as well. So that's a quick snapshot of Compass Plus. I suppose very briefly, just on the pupil side of things, if you just have a quick look at that side of things, you can basically filter and find different groups of pupils these days. We've developed a system so that you can look at lots of different types of filters. If you want to sort of find those that have had guidance interviews, or by age, or by UPN, or English as additional language, etc. You can put all sorts of filters in if you wanted to sort of go, right, I've got a group of cohort of young people here I want to look at. So it's easy enough to sort of pick any requirements that you have. But ultimately, I'll just pick a random pupil profile, and this will have random data in it, so it won't make a lot of operational sense. But every pupil profile is set up in the system in the same way. So all the personal information we pull across is in here. This is all exactly as you've got it in your MIS. We don't change anything. So things like ethnicity code and groups are coded as you've got them in your MIS. Compass Plus then adds in the groups that this individual is part of, so their year group or their teaching groups here, their form group, any characteristics groups that they're perhaps part of as well, and then anyone who's any group that in the academic year, but they've now been removed from. So again, if you can get quite sophisticated if you want to with Compass Plus, but you don't have to necessarily. So that's all automatically populated by your MIS. This is all automatically populated by Compass Plus and kept up to date. If you look at the activities, then let's just leave the benchmarks at the moment. All the activities the pupil's part of get listed every time we add them to an activity. It gets listed here, and it tells us whether it's planned or completed or cancelled as well. So at any point, you've got a full record against the individual of what they're part of or been asked to join in. That powers a little individual snapshot, benchmarks 2 to 8 here, because of course benchmark 1's a whole school benchmark. So this just shows us if there's a tick or a cross for whether there's any activities planned or completed. So for benchmark 2, I can see I've got something here planned in the list below and nothing yet completed. Equally for benchmark 3, I've got both planned activities and I've also got something that's completed as well. Yet for benchmark 6, I've nothing planned or completed. So on an individual basis, I can actually go in and go, oh, actually, perhaps I need for this particular young person to include them in something for benchmark 6. So it's quite handy to be able to do that. And you can download a PDF of the individual reports and share them as well. And of course, we encourage everyone to share the individual pupil profile with that young person at the right time in the academic year, when perhaps we're having guidance interview and things like that as well. So that's very briefly some of the facets of Compass Plus. There's loads more to show and tell, but we don't particularly have a huge amount of time to do that without taking time away from your questions. So do you want to come to questions, and we'll perhaps come back to support and other ways to help you beyond this call as well before we finish, if that's okay. So Jill, did you want to ask any questions first of all, and then we'll come to the upgrade process, if that helps?
Yeah, I was just going to say to you, let's go through a few questions. I know there's a few with can you show us? So what we might do is try and get through the questions, and certainly on some of the examples we can always send out, like show us a copy of the pupil report. I don't know whether, can you do that now, David, or will it take you out obviously to the...
No, that's fine. So we're in the pupil. So let's
do that and
just click the download. It gives us a little notice to say we need to take responsibility for what we download, basically, and then it's just working it out for us.
Great. So I think we've done a couple of questions while you're just showing that. We've talked about the activities up against benchmarks.
Yep.
We've talked about filtering by your target groups. So I think everybody can see the importance of why we need that link into your MIS systems, because all your pupil data, all your groupings come through, and obviously, that for me is the big positive around this, that you're not having to manually key in when you've got, specific student groups being set up or different cohorts. So hopefully we've covered that. Obviously we've got the pupil activity summary that David's just showing you now on, that you can obviously share with parents evenings, things like that.
So at the moment you can do these individually. It's in our development roadmap. Jill, you'll have heard this many times, I know, but it's actually fairly shortly to come out in our development roadmap to be able to do these in bulk. So it's taken a couple of years to get to it with other things we've prioritised, but you'll soon be able to do these like in larger volumes. So if you're trying to do something to tie into the academic cycle of reporting with parents' evenings, things like that. Yeah,
great. And then we have got a couple of very quick questions about Unifrog. Now I know we have got the session at 11 o'clock that Charlotte's posted in here, but I don't know whether quickly, will it pull in groups that have been set up from Unifrog when obviously the data's pulled through, and also about emails as well? So I'm just going to find that one.
Yes, those are I definitely asked those questions in the Unifrog session as well, but okay. From in simple terms, yes, if you click if you identify the activities in Unifrog that you want, it will bring the pupils with them, and then basically you can upload them into Compass Plus, and also they get posted to all those individual pupils' records as well. So you get the activity in with all the pupils, and then looking at it through the other end of the telescope, all those pupils get all that activity into their pupil profile as well.
Okay. And does Compass Plus pull in email addresses for students? Is that a field that we pull into Compass Plus?
No, we don't.
No.
So at the moment, we don't take student emails. We may well look to ask everyone if we can. We certainly will in the future. We can't be too sure when that will be yet. But, we're heading in that direction in the future, I think.
Okay, that's fine. And the only other question that we had was about looking at how it downloads as an activity report. Can you show us how it downloads as an activity report?
Yeah, sure. So if we go to plans,
and then I think that's all the
so
questions.
Sure. So if you want to download your plan, it comes in here into Excel.
There you go.
Okay, I think that's still sharing with you because I'm sharing this monitor.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So you can basically see it picks out all the fields that are in the plan. So you can see all of that there. It doesn't pick out individual pupil data as such. It summarizes numbers, of course. So this is shareable to the right people in your organization because there's no pupil data in there, individual pupil data, of course. And then, but also any of your providers who are doing activity will also be listed here as well. So it pulls the raw data out for you if you need to be able to manipulate the data for anything else as such.
Right, thanks, David. I think that's all the questions, and I'm hoping that for those that have asked the questions, we've answered those. If not, let us know. Anya, are you happy with all of those? Brilliant, thumbs up. That's what I like. That's what I like.
Okay, so I think Costas, I'm not sure if you've managed to join us yet. Do shout up if you have.
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
Yeah.
Did you want to just perhaps share your screen and just briefly take everyone through the upgrade process, if that's all right? And we can pick any questions upon that if there's time. And also, I'd just like to show people where in the product there is also some extra points of support and further things you can do as well. Over to you, Costas.
Thanks, David. Right, thank you, everyone. David's run through the benefits Compass Plus, so I'm going to run through you guys how to upgrade. Now, just to say, the upgrade process is pretty straightforward. From your perspective, your part would probably take you probably no more than 5 minutes, I'd say. And then it's over to your IT team to do the integration with your MIS and assembly. And that really should take no longer than 20 to 30 minutes also. Okay, so I've just taken some screenshots here of what you'll see when you log into Compass. So this is what you'll see when you log in. You see this upgrade now button. I've just expanded it here so you can see it. Hopefully, text is a bit bigger here. So basically, once you click that button, it'll tell you what the pre-upgrade tasks are, and that's really just to let you know what's expected of you before you start the upgrade. So obvious things like read the T's and C's, read our T's and C's, assemblies T's and C's, etc., and agree to those. Check the name of your MIS system. So I'm sure you all know what that is: Sims, Arbor, etc. And also worth checking that you've got an eligible MIS system. So we are compatible with probably close to 90% of the MS providers out there. So there's a few of the smaller ones that we're not yet compatible with, but we'll find that probably 90% that we are. But always worth checking that list before you start your upgrade process. And at the end of this call, we can send you guys this guide, which will show you the link on where to find those MS providers that we are compatible with. Okay, the other thing is just be aware of, we're going to ask you for your IT manager's contact details. Now that could be the IT manager, your network manager, basically whoever within your organization is going to do the technical steps for the upgrades. So just bear that in mind and have that ready. And what we'd also say with regards to that is, we'd always say schedule some time with your IT contact. So obviously pre-warn them that you're doing this, let them know when you're going to do it, and say to them, can you put aside half an hour to do the technical steps once you've submitted the form. Okay, so that's just a sort of pre-upgrade request there. And if you've got any questions, just send us a request there. Okay, so once you click the upgrade now button, that will take you onto our next screen, which is basically the online form that is complete. Okay, so pretty straightforward. The things we spoke about in the pre-upgrade tasks: confirm your MS from the drop down. So you can either check the list beforehand, or you can check it once you see this drop down. But it's worth checking it beforehand to save you going through this process and then realising you can't do it. But check that list on our website. Put the IT contacts details in here. It's really important that you put the right contacts here, especially the right email address, because once you submit this form, that will prompt an email to send to your IT contact with the technical steps they need to do. Okay. Now, the other thing we ask you to do is because Compass Plus has pupil level data, we say review your Compass users to make sure that they're all still current. You might want to remove some because they've left or changed roles. You might want to add some because you want more people, you can have more people involved adding activities for you, for example. So always suggest you check your managed users, deactivate who shouldn't be there, add anyone else that you want to add into that. Okay. And just tick you confirm you agree with the T's and C's, etc., and then click submit. Now, one thing to know is this process can only be done by the Compass administrator, and the reason for that is because the administrator is the one that manages your users. That's why we need the administrator to do it in case there's any users that shouldn't be on there. The administrator can deactivate those before you go ahead with the Compass Plus upgrade. Okay, so once you've done that, click submit. If you don't get through the form, you can do save and complete later, but really should only take you a few minutes to complete this form anyway. Okay, once that's done, my reminders, sorry. Once that's done, this is basically a copy of the email that will go to your IT contact. So I won't go through it all in detail, but it basically gives them the 3 steps of what I need to do. And within the email, if they click on any of these links here, depending on what MS you've got, they'll get a very, very detailed guide on what every single step they need to do for Sims, Bromcom, etc., etc. So that's a very detailed guide from Assembly. And I say should only take 20-30 minutes max for your IT team to do that. Okay. Now, if they get this and they start the process, or they don't start the process at all, there will be some reminders sent to your IT contact to say, just remind you you've started this process but haven't yet completed it. You'll also see some prompts from the Compass team as well to say we can see the process has been started but hasn't been completed. Just a few reminders to get you through there. And those reminders are useful because we often get people writing back going, oh, I thought I completed it all. And then when we remind them they haven't, they review it and go, actually, I've missed the final step of authorising Compass Plus, for example. But again, just a handy hint on there, schedule some time with your IT, let them know it's coming. Ideally, schedule some time so they say we're going to do it this time, and then straight away you can check whether it's been done or send an email to us and say, can you confirm we're live, etc. Okay. Now, once that is live, so if you said before, if you navigate away from these pages, you get some reminders. Okay. And once that's live, you can then log into Compass Plus via the Compass Plus page. So once you go live, you'll get an email to say you've now live with Compass Plus, and you also get some welcome emails sent to yourself just to confirm that 1 hour, 1 week, and 2 weeks later as well, just to remind you. So that's all done. Now, what it says, once you've done your integration with Assembly, the initial sync between Assembly and your MS will take a few hours, and then we'll do an overnight sync as well, a full sync with your MS. And once that's done for the first time, you have all your pupil data in there, and from then on it will be updated on a daily basis. And that's it. And apologies if you heard my little 5-year-old tell you all that she's been to the toilet, but that's I can hear that. I don't know if you can, but there you go. Just a bit of information you probably didn't want to know. Okay, so I've whizzed through that. So you can see it's fairly straightforward. We'll send you over don't worry about too much detail on what I've spoken about, because we'll send you over a link to that guide. Very easy to follow, very intuitive. And we can also obviously support your IT team with your technical steps as well once they're at that process. Okay, so I'm conscious of whiz through that. So any questions on that?
Costas, we haven't got any questions yet, but we'll open the floor up. I just wonder whether or not, and I know we have got some concerns around data and obviously Assembly. They're our partner with CEC, but there are some concerns certainly from an IT and data protection. So, I mean, is there a little bit of information? I know historically, and I don't know if it's still right, their Assembly obviously actually managed the data for the likes of DFE. It's a large organisation that is, that's what they do for a living, basically. So I think it's to allay some of those concerns and fears, and hopefully from what they've seen around what Compass Plus does is that the rationale of why we need to bring the data from Sims, because it just makes the overall pupil data obviously relevant and up to date. So if you can share any further information, I think that would be really useful.
Yeah, so just so I'll just
sorry, go on.
Quick overview, and then David can chip in as well. So you'll see some links to Assembly's pages as well when you do the upgrade process. So you see their T's and C's, their privacy policy. They've got a very, very detailed privacy policy. They're ISO 27001 or something. They're very highly accredited with GDPR and security and so on. But the key thing to note is when you go through the assembly process, you'll see things like access to personnel data, access to salaries, etc. Now that is only if you're using assembly for other tools. So you might be using assembly for your payroll, for example, which is why it's asking you for payroll data. If you're only using assembly for Compass Plus, it will only have access to the Compass Plus data scopes, as David mentioned earlier. So we do get some questions around why do they want to know our, staff salaries, for example. If you're only using Compass Plus, they won't want to know your staff salaries. They won't have access to that information. But because you may, when you're doing this upgrade, you're linking with assembly rather than linking with Compass initially. So that's why it's asking you for permission to access those. But it will only have access to the data scope that you've agreed. And in this scenario, that's a Compass Plus data scope, not any other data scope.
And I think we have had that query around staff personnel details that are in, obviously, the back office systems in schools. And we do keep reiterating it is only the pupil data, and it's only certain fields as well that are obviously requested. So it's not the whole of the data that sits within.
Thanks, Jill, and thanks, Costas, for those bits as well. Because the other thing just to bear in mind is perhaps, Costas, we can add the into the chat. We can add the DPIA template if that's possible. So what we've done in response to some of those types of queries we've had from across the sector is we've created a DPIA template that perhaps your business manager or your DPO may find helpful. It's intended for your own internal sort of school use. It's not something we need to review or have back or anything like that. But it's been set out to cover pretty well all of the sort of types of questions that we do get. So, who has access to our data? Where is it stored? How is it stored? What's the security? What are the risks? What are the mitigations? All of that sort of those types of questions that, to be quite candid, a good DPO would ask and should ask are there. We answered them all on behalf of schools for the knowledge we have. So that's an editable document for you to add at school level. Anything else you need to, or you want to change or anything from that perspective, you can. And it's for your purposes. So the aim is if you've got a DPO or a business manager who needs to sort of review our terms and conditions and privacy notice and sort of make and sort of document a risk assessment against it, then that template will be generally should cover over 90-95% of any queries, at least, if not all of them. So we can make that available, and then if there's any further questions, we can come back through Costas' customer service team as well. If that covers things for the moment, can I briefly just take us back to the product to show you some support options just to help you for when you do get into Compass Plus. That from today, then at least you've got access to where these things are. So let me just briefly share my screen with you all again.
So David, while you're just getting that ready, just to say it looks like attachments are blocked on the chat, so I'll have to send the DPIA separately after this.
Costas, if you share it with me and Charlotte, what we'll do is we'll pull everything together and we'll send the recording and we'll do it all just in one email out to everybody.
Okay,
and then everybody gets everything. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, great. So one quick thing to start with, the support, training resources over here, which I'll come to in a moment. But one quick thing is support. The best place for support is this button in the bottom right-hand corner. It's in your current Compass account as well. So you can access all of the information that's in here now in your current Compass. You can search it all, it's there. You click on that support button, it shouldn't just disappear, it'll pop up. It pops up into a little box here, and you can type any keywords. Well, I've typed a few, as you can see here. But if you want to search for something about how to help, how do I do something? How do I perhaps create activities? How do I do other things related to activities? If you basically just type your word in, hit return, and what the support widget will do is it'll find articles we've written and are in our knowledge base that support you for each of these steps. So there's all sorts of things like for instance, how do I create an activity for Gatsby benchmark 2 to 8? If I just click on that, then basically what happens is you get the article pops up. Obviously, this is very small, it's quite difficult to read. So with all of these, you'll see there's a little arrow. You click on the arrow, and it actually pops out into a new browser window. So I've still got Compass Plus here, but this is now in my new browser window. And this is the article I've just clicked on. And all these articles have, well, most of them, I should say, have short videos, sort of minute and a half, of a little fly through with narration saying this is how you do the task. And then if you can play, pause, and repeat those to your leisure. And then also they have little screen captures and annotations and guidance to how to go through and to do the task itself. So you can find all these sort of things in that support button. As I say, it's just down here. You can also leave us a message. So if you click leave us a message, the system populates your name and your email, so we know who you are, and you can just literally start typing in whatever your query might be. You can attach screen captures if you want to show something that's a bit of an issue and you want us to try and resolve it. And then you just click send, and it'll go straight to Costas's team, who will then ticket it, give you a response to say that they've acknowledged it, and start working through the query to resolve it with you. And it's tracked right the way through to completion for you then as well. So that's a really great way, and you can do that in Compass now, in your current Compass. You can even start, if you want to, just type in upgrade. Is it properly? How to upgrade to Compass Plus, the second one down here. If you click on that, and if you just expand it again, it pops up in a separate browser window. But this gives you all the sort of information we've talked about. So this used to be on our website, but we've moved it because of various things. So this shows you, if you're eligible, what schools are eligible, what MIS we use. You can click on here. They're all listed here. Bit of info around how others have found it. And so on and so forth, and all the things that Costas has just taken you through. So there's all sorts of support in that support widget as such. So again, that support widget, you'll find it in your current Compass now, and it's in Compass Plus, and wherever you go in either product, it follows you around. And then very briefly, there's more training and resources available in Compass Plus. So when you're in Compass Plus, when you've done your upgrade, if you click on training resources on the left-hand side here, you can basically access some free online training. So there's 2 30-minute modules. You just click access and you'll get straight through to the website where they are, and just log straight in to do those if you want to. They take about 20 to 30 minutes each, and they give you a good overview of how to use the system. There's some little videos and self-test quizzes. The data doesn't go anywhere, it's just for your own sort of training and familiarity, if you like. You can also then click through to any webinars. If you want to see if we're doing any webinars, for example, this takes you straight through. So this is where we currently are. These are the national webinars. So we've done some Get Started webinars yesterday. And we're doing a future skills one, I think, this afternoon. So a future skills questionnaire was one of those this afternoon, and we'll populate that all the time. So we're about to just put the new set of post-January range of webinars in there as well. So anytime you're in the product, you can come and see when some webinars and see if there's anything that's of interest to you. Also, if you want to access our resource directory, you can find it here. And then on a wider basis, that you can access details around careers leader training more generally, our bursary funded program of training, and then there's some further broader careers leader training, not just Compass Plus, but broader training as well, for careers leaders here as well. So these are broader careers leader training at the bottom. One's funded, one's free online, and then resources above, as we said, and then more specific Compass stuff, Compass Plus stuff at the top here. And that's all under training and resources. So that along with the support widget, when it pops back up again, here we are the two key places to think about trying to access further information when you're in Compass Plus, if that helps.
Thanks, David. I'm just conscious of time. We've got a couple of minutes. We've got no other questions, I think, in the chat, but is there anything that anybody wants to raise at all? Are there anything that you think we've not covered, or you want us just to go back through anything for you? Has everybody found that useful? Can you give me some thumbs up? Has that, I know I can't see everybody with being teams, but has that allayed maybe some concerns that, or give you a bit more confidence maybe in talking to? I know we might have some our IT guys on the call today as well. So I did post in there just the central email for us, careershub@growthplatform.org, just so that obviously they don't get lost within our own email boxes. But if after this session you go and have further conversations and there's still some questions once you've had all the information from us, then please, either yourselves or your IT departments, get them to just email directly to us, and we will pick up any questions with Costas and David if we can get back to you with any responses, because we're just keen really that obviously when we get back after Christmas that we can really start to move some of you forward in terms of the benefits that I hope that you've seen this morning through Compass Plus. Oh, lovely. We've got somebody upgrading this week, so that's fantastic. But yeah, just thanks very much everybody for this morning. And if you do want to, if you're using some of the other systems like Unifrog, there is the integration at 11. It's a 30-minute session. We will be recording that. So again, we'll share that out across all career leads this morning, irrespective of whether you've attended or not. So there is some further information. And there's also the session that's been going on at 9:30 with Stu and one of David's team that's just around hints and tips. So again, that will be shared out across the whole of the region as well. So there's further information as and when you do actually upgrade. But yeah, keep us posted. Any queries or questions, you need any further support, then come to the central team, obviously your enterprise coordinators as well. But thanks everybody for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks everyone. Take care.
Thank you.